everyone, I'm Shaylin here with Reedsy. So today we're going to be talking about how to write an epistolary novel. So epistolary novels are novels that are written in the form of in-world texts. So letters, journal entries, emails, transcripts, articles, messages, etc. Some epistolary novels will only use one format, whereas others will use a combination of formats, and might include texts written by multiple different characters. Some novels are entirely epistolary, so they're only written through in-world documents, whereas others might combine standard narrative with epistolary elements. So for example, a book that's just written in standard third person, but it also has inserts of letters written by the characters. Famous examples of epistolary novels include Dracula by Bram Stoker, which includes a variety of different epistolary formats. The Martian by Andy Weir, which is written as transcripts of the main character's video logs when he's stuck on Mars. Beautiful World, Where Are You by Sally Rooney, which includes emails exchanged by the characters. Parable of the Sower by Octavia E. Butler, which, fun fact, here at Reedsy we recently read for our team book club, which is told in the form of journal entries by a young girl in a post-apocalyptic society, which gives the book a very grounded, non-sensationalized view of the violence surrounding her. Another really unique example is This Is How You Lose the Time War by Amal El-Mohtar and Max Gladstone, which includes letters by the two main characters, agents on different sides of a interdimensional time war, as they're taunting each other, but through which they eventually fall in love. So why write in the epistolary format? Like with any writing choice, it's one you want to make intentionally, because it's the best, if not only, way to tell your story. Think about what the epistolary form adds to the novel. What is the effect you want to achieve here? Maybe you want to create a meta-narrative around a police investigation by showing the entire murder case through evidence and found footage. Or maybe you want to create the very intimate, lived-in feel of diary entries in a historical setting to capture the real feeling of the time. There's so much you can do with the epistolary format, so the first step is to know what it is you want to do by using this format in your work. Tip number 2 is to lean into your dialogue skills. Writing epistolary fiction can often be like writing a whole book entirely made out of dialogue. Not literally, but in terms of the skill set that you're using. And that's because, like dialogue, epistolary work comes directly from the character's voice. Think about how you would create a character's voice in dialogue and really pour that into the narrative. You want the voice to sound personal and intimate rather than too authorial. After all, that's the fun of epistolary writing. It removes this kind of veil of narrative and makes it feel like it's really coming directly from the character, as they're quite literally writing it directly. Tip number 3 is to use the form to your advantage. You want to think about how the form would realistically affect the narrative. Would lines in a letter be crossed out where the character has changed their mind about what they want to say? Would a character use nicknames or some kind of shorthand in their journal entries? The limits of the epistolary form are also the best place to challenge yourself, to think outside the box and write something truly unique. Epistolary novels will fail when there's no consideration to how the frame would actually affect the narrative, style, and voice, but they shine when those things are played with in thoughtful and insightful ways. Many epistolary novels also inherently come with a deep level of introspection. Say your story is told through diary entries. Well, we write diary entries as a way of processing events ourselves, which means there's going to be quite a heavy layer of introspection. It means that the character is telling the events after they each happen, but not with full knowledge of how the story elapses. Because it's such a unique quality, it's one you want to think about so that you can use it to its maximum effect. So think about how the format's relationship to time will affect how the story is told, especially in a case where the question isn't just how will your character remember the events, but how would they write about it. Tip number 4, think about the audience. And in this case, I don't just mean the audience that you know of as the writer, but the audience the character knows of as the author of their own story. Who does this character think the audience is? If they're writing the story down, that means there may be an audience baked into the story. Not in terms of real-life readers who are going to pick up the book, but in terms of who the character is quite literally writing the story for. Do they think anyone is reading their journal entries? Who are they addressing their letters to? This could all dramatically change how they write, especially the level of reliability or unreliability that we're dealing with. If they're writing as a way to document their life after their death, expecting their journals to be found and used to remember them, this will probably change how they portray themselves than if they don't think their journals will ever be seen by anyone. How would the story change if the main character realizes that their younger sister has been sneaking in to read their diary, and something they first thought was private has now become the whole family's business? How does the audience change the tone of the piece? What are the feelings of the character towards this audience? How does it change the character's motivations for telling the story, and how might it affect the meta-narrative? Which brings us to the last tip, which is make use of the meta-narrative. This is the narrative happening surrounding the telling of the story rather than just the story itself. Maybe your book is a correspondence between two pen pals, and they've gotten in touch because they had similar paranormal experiences as children. They might be telling each other their story, that's the main plot of the book, but maybe in the meta-narrative we can explore their relationship as it develops through their correspondence. The meta-narrative is one of the coolest and most unique aspects of epistolary fiction. So if it's something you can make use of, think about it, because it can add a very unique quality and a very unique layer and depth to your story. So those are 5 key steps for how to write epistolary fiction. If you are writing epistolary fiction, please let me know in the comments. I'm currently working on a book that isn't entirely epistolary, but it implements one of the character's journal entries. So there's 2 POVs and one of them is told through journal entries. If you have any questions, you can leave them in the Google form linked in the description, and they may be covered in one of our Q&A sessions. Thank you so much for watching. Remember to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any new videos from us. We've got new writing, editing, and publishing tips every Friday on this channel. Until next time, bye.